Well, interesting. I couldn't miss this show. I've been wanting to do a Carpenter for quite a while, and today's actually John's birthday.
Oh, is it?
I just read John Carpenter's birthday. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
how
cool.
appropriate we're doing a retrospective and
Yeah.
yeah,
I wish Bloodletter were here. I miss seeing her. I miss having
yeah,
her aboard for our horror shows,
I know.
which we're going to do more of,
Yeah,
going
yeah,
this year. So I think we kind of split them 50-50 or something,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
All right.
All right. Well, shall we get into this John Carpenter thing here?
Yes. Let's do our
Um,
intro and
all
get
right.
going.
Let's go.
Hey everybody, this is Justin from Sorcerer,
And Christian,
and you guys are listening to and watching
heavy
Metal
metal.
I am Montag, master of illusion. What goes up must come down, but not always.
Hey, this is Chop-Top, and this is gonna be horrific.
And you are watching and listening to Heavy Metal Horror. Oh, kiddies, tonight we've got a good show. We are celebrating the birthday boy, John Carpenter. Happy birthday, Mr. Carpenter. We're doing a show all about your movies, at least the ones we've seen. Um, and this goes back quite a ways for me anyway, seeing his movies. I know he's one of your favorite directors too, Chop-Top.
Yes, absolutely. Probably, probably arguably my favorite horror director of all time. I just there's a certain style, and we can discuss that into his films. There's just a certain his use of camera angles and just different things. You can tell it's a Carpenter film when you're watching it, and his use of direction and stuff. And I think that's fascinating because that easily identifies then his art and what he's doing, what he tries to go for. And you don't find that in a lot of films. You don't find that distinct style, I think, where you're like, oh, that's a John Carpenter film, or oh, that's a Tobey Hooper film, or
Sure,
something like that.
You see that in a few directors, have that certain style. I think in horror,
I'd say Ridley Scott would be another one.
Ridley Scott, James Whale, and then also Val Lewton, and who has that really specific kind of look to his movies, and Steven Spielberg, I think, is another director that just has a look, to his movies. And I think I agree. Yeah, Carpenter has that. And I like how Carpenter kind of just started off at these kind of small indie movies and worked into, mainstream, big movies. And he also does other things other than horror, of course. And that's kind of where, we'll talk about those. But let's just go through the list. Starting with the earliest ones that we've seen. The first movie I saw of his, not the first time I saw, but the oldest movie I saw, is 1974's Darkstar. And are you familiar with that sci-fi comedy?
But believe it, I haven't. I've never watched it though. But I am familiar with it. It was when he was in film school, right?
Yeah, it's super low budget comedy about these like kind of hippies in space. They're all drugged out and kind of just zoned out, and they fly around in a ship, and their whole task is to blow up unstable planets. And so they have these like in this ship where the bombs look like they're the back of a semi trailer, about that shape. And then the bombs talk. Okay, bomb, are you ready to go? Yeah, I'm excited. Got my mission, ready to do my thing. It's quite funny. And there's this big like balloon or like a beach ball like alien on board, and it's just very kind of silly and goofy, and the comedy is really quite funny, and they get into a problem where one of the bombs, the main problem, the thrust of the movie is eventually one of the bombs doesn't want to, it won't let go, but it won't stop itself from blowing up. They're like trying to tell it, you know, the bomb starts asking these existential questions, and then you know, there's a couple stuff I don't want to spoil it for you because I think
Okay.
it's well worth the watch. But anyway,
Right.
Darkstar was the oldest film I saw, and I think that really, you know, it's it is a definitely a treat because it's so low budget and really kind of odd. It's very funny. Yeah.
All right. I'll have to check that out. My earliest recollection is the classic Halloween.
Hmm.
Uh, just it got to me so much. That scared the hell out of me for years. You know, growing up, they always had it on Halloween night. I remember, I think it was on Channel 43. They had it, and yeah, just never saw anything like that because I was growing up with the black and white, and you're growing up
Hmm.
with the hammer, and you know, and this was
Hmm.
obviously another level of intensity.
Yeah.
And wow, that I just to this day, one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
Which by the time we get to the end of the list, it'll be interesting to see. Because I mean, I have some ones that I think are underrated. I'm going to
Mhm.
talk about, and also
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to see what our top Carpenter film all time would be a pick. I have
Yeah.
a couple in mind. I'm juggling with, but
Yeah. Same
yeah,
here.
Halloween
Yeah.
was yeah.
I mean, Halloween's right up there. You know, it's a classic suspense film. It's also often listed in a slasher film, but it's really not. I mean, there is a killing earlier on, but it's almost bloodless. You
Yes.
know, it is not gore filled as you might expect. It's suspense. You know, that's I think what really it's like Hitchcockian in that regard, where this impending suspense just gets more and more intense as Michael Myers just gets closer and closer to his victims, you know,
Yeah.
and that kind of ever-present menace, which is what Quentin Tarantino could have done with Death Proof. But anyway, we'll
Another
save
show.
that
Yeah.
discussion for another show. Yeah, Halloween is spectacular.
Well,
And
I think
it's another low budget film, and you know, it's one that my grandma and I used to love watching all the time. She loved it because it's pretty simple. I mean, there's not
yeah,
a whole lot to
yeah,
explain. Michael Myers escapes, starts killing people, you know,
yeah.
shows up and he's wearing a mask and he's stalking everybody on Halloween night. You know,
And
it's so simple in that regard, but that's I think part of its beauty is the simplicity of the plot, you know.
anytime you got a killer that looks like William Shatner too, I mean that's great.
Right.
But I think that you know the lighting is so it's not really well lit, but that adds to the suspense as well. How it's you know
Hmm.
filmed and lit, and then I also think um, not just the lighting, but of course that classic score that Carpenter
Yeah.
made. I
And I
mean,
think he does a lot of that
oh
music himself.
yes,
It's almost like having Goblin do music for, you know, for a oh, Fulci film or something,
yeah,
you know. Right. Yeah, Carpenter's score, it's identifiable, you know, you can really kind of hear it. Um, and it's very, very easy to pick out, you know. Yeah, Halloween, I think the sequel itself, I think is good. Halloween 2, which we'll
hmm
probably get to.
sure,
Um, the whole franchise, I need to go back. It kind of falls apart for me, but at least the first one, 2 is even very different than the first one in that it becomes more of a chase than
yeah,
that building of suspense. Like, you know, we get so close to the end, and the second one literally takes place like immediately after, which I kind of like. It's almost
hmm
like a continuation of the story and that
yeah,
where he takes us to the hospital, and so you get to the point where this level, and then the Halloween 2 kind of keeps this level going. um but yeah, I love the simplicity and of Halloween, and kind of the only thing that kind of stands out to me anymore now sometimes is seeing how green everything is. Or you know because it's supposed to be Halloween time and it's supposed to be, you know, fall, but
yeah, yeah.
you know, but it like never dawned on me before. I was totally immersed in the story and plot. And you know, what's not to love about Jamie Lee Curtis, who will show up in more, you know, of his
Oh yeah,
movies. You know, we should
and
get
I
her
think
on the show.
absolutely.
Ms. Curtis, we'd love to have you on.
Absolutely. Going to, you know, you talked about Halloween too, and you know, I enjoy that too as a sequel. The one thing that got me in that movie, and you watched it years later, you're a kid, you're like, whatever. But then you're like, really? hospital that barely has any lights on. There's
Right.
barely any people working, and it's like, is that really realistic? But I guess
Yeah.
I read somewhere that sometimes during those small hospitals and stuff at that time, and it was a graveyard shift. It was, lowly staffed, didn't need that many staff, and I guess it was kind of true in some regards. But
Yeah, we can't imagine that now. Any
No.
hospital now, it'd be, there's no way in the world it would happen,
Right.
But that's part of I think the nightmare aspect of it, this horror, Yeah. All right. Yeah, I mean, we could do a whole show on Halloween, but we got so much to cover.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, I'm just working my way through chronologically,
Okay.
but
Sounds good.
yeah, my next one that I remember seeing of his is 1976, Assault on Precinct 13.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, where so it feels very underground, very low budget, and it's like an action thriller film.
Mhm.
There's these police officers defending this old precinct, against this criminal gang who wants to like break in and kill everybody. And it certainly is an exploitation film in that
Yes.
regard. There's a lot of suspense to it as well. It's got that kind of a, like the themes that you see like at movies like The Warriors. It's almost a precursor, I think, in some ways, to Escape from New York. And it got
Yeah.
that kind of broken landscape, that kind of dystopia, that kind of society has crumbled in a way. That's what this lone precinct in the middle of this, gangland kind of feels like
Yeah.
to me. And
When you're
again,
right with that, it has a very gritty feel.
oh yeah,
The film overall, and then of course that grittiness. I think you're right. Takes and continues Escape from New York. Just that same kind of feeling, that same kind of. You get that same that atmosphere, if you will, from just the set piece or wherever they're directing and stuff. So yeah,
mhm.
it's enjoyable though.
Oh yeah, I liked it, and it was remade. I didn't see the remake, but
Yeah,
I've always liked the original. I mean, it certainly looks like a low budget or no budget film from 1976.
Yeah.
But that, I think that's part of the charm. That
I agree.
it's a grindhouse movie,
Yeah.
and that's how it feels, and that's how you want it to feel, and I'm totally cool with that. I mean, I love that. Going back to Tarantino, and because I think they borrow from Carpenter quite a lot, and
I agree.
Robert Rodriguez, they were going out of their way to make a grindhouse movie with Death Proof and the much superior
Planet Terror.
Planet Terror.
Mhm.
But they still have those kind of sensibilities. There are shots that look like Carpenter-esque, or the way they kind of frame things, or the way things look. And Carpenter was making these movies in the midst of this, so, and he was kind of cutting his teeth on these low budget, and like, okay, how do we make a film look good when we have no money?
Right.
What do we do to kind of create story and suspense while we don't have money for special effects or those kinds of things?
Mhm.
And so that's why Assault on Precinct 13 is a success for me, because you really see this film director kind of using what he's got, and making a convincing movie with very little money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with another one coming up here. I'm probably going to get some flack for it, but if you look at it a film on its own and not part of a franchise, it's
Are we
still
talking
enjoyable. Halloween 3,
Halloween?
Season of the Witch. 2 more days to Halloween.
Yes.
But I think that, obviously, I mean, the story is behind that. He wanted to turn into a different thing, a Halloween theme, each Halloween movie.
Right. That was the intent. That was the intent. Right.
And everybody came in, oh, it's Halloween, Michael Myers is back, Season of the Witch, what's it? And then they were
Yeah.
just like, what the fuck is this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I watch it years later, I enjoy it for its own charm and being a B movie that it is. And you got, a decent cast in there as well.
Yeah, the cast is pretty good.
The story's pretty cool. So
yeah,
and especially the mask when they take him to that test room or whatever, and that kid's snakes and worms and roaches start popping out of his eyes and mouth and the mask. It's like, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I remember having a
Great
Fangoria
great
comic
popcorn
book.
flick. Yeah, sorry,
It
Mike.
is.
Great popcorn.
I agree with that. I remember having a Fangoria issue with this movie, because I'd never seen it until probably last year, maybe year before last, maybe 2020.
Okay.
I might have seen this in the fall of 2020 for the first time. So I don't have those younger sensibilities. I'm approaching it now as this adult, and I was like, whew, wow, this is rough, man. So I understand. I can, I can appreciate it. If you saw it when you were younger, I get it.
Yeah.
How often is that the case? Something we see in our youth, it kind of, so it's so beautiful. When we see it again, we have those memories. But
Yeah.
this one I just kept on seeing its faults, to a degree. It's not a
Right.
well made movie for me.
Right.
But I liked the idea behind it.
Hmm.
As silly as it is, this whole, Stonehenge thing. But I like that he was trying to create a horror anthology.
Yeah.
We're just going to call it Halloween. We're going to make these different stories. And because that was pretty common, with like Tales from the Crypt and all those kinds of episodic TV shows. So I like the concept. It just, yeah, I just didn't think it was successful. But that's cool, man. It's okay.
Right. Right.
All right. I'm going to talk about one from 1980 that I know we both love, The Fog.
Hmm.
And this is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I
Same
will
here.
watch it if it's on TV. I'm going to watch it. I don't care. I'll
Yep.
put it on. If it's on like one of the movie channels or Turner Classic or something shows, I'll DVR it so I can just play it over and over again, just to have it on in the background.
Yeah.
I love, again, here's a simple ghost story. I mean, in its simplicity, it's a ghost story of ghostly revenge, and
Hmm.
it's not that there aren't some problems. Really, actually, there's only one problem. I have one thing that still bothers me about the movie. It's a scene where they're in the hospital after they've recovered the dead guy from the boat,
Oh
and
yeah.
he gets up and tries to stab Jamie Lee Curtis's character, and like no one says a thing about it. Like, well, that's weird. This guy who was dead tried to kill you. Eh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they just move on.
That's peculiar. And they just blow it
Eh.
off.
I'm like, wait a minute, what the fuck here? This guy was fucking dead. He tried to stab the hottie with the knife,
Yeah.
the scalpel. And it's like, nah, fuck it.
Yeah.
Nah.
I think the
That,
doctors just
yeah.
they'd have a conversation just staring down at like
Yeah, he's like,
walk away.
that's
Go to the next
odd.
scene, I'm like, huh.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
agree.
the only issue I have. So,
Right.
Mr. Carpenter, if you ever watch this, that's the only thing I'd like to know. What happened there?
Yeah.
Love the movie. I mean, love Adrienne Barbeau, great
Mhm.
cast.
Yep.
Hal Holbrook.
Brooke.
Oh fuck. Jamie Lee Curtis and her mom, Janet
Yeah.
Leigh. I mean, what a stellar cast. And I love the idea of being in a lighthouse. I love the whole feel of the movie. Being in a lighthouse, it's got this creepiness and the simplicity again of the special effects. It's
Yeah.
almost bloodless. There's a scene of like gore where you see the face of one of the dead pirates, where they
Yeah.
have like worms and stuff coming out of its face, and like kind of brackish water comes out of a wound or something. But all the effects are really light and smoke, and there's so
Yeah.
much atmosphere in this movie
That's
created
the
by
thing.
such simple effects.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. The simplicity, and then on top of that, the location of the lighthouse, that weather station,
Yeah.
the house where the little boy's getting babysitted, Adrian Barbeau's son, and it's just this sense of isolation, like you are trapped and you don't
Mhm.
know what's behind that fog. And
Mhm.
that again, simplicity carrying over to quite a hell of a suspenseful tale.
Yeah, I want to
And
go to
so,
Antonio Bay.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I just, yeah, you can't say enough about, and of course that intro with John Houseman,
Yes,
telling the
right.
ghost story.
Right, which
So fantastic.
another brilliant director parodied on his second movie, Sorority Sisters versus Sasquatch. Right?
Yes, I know who
Yes,
you're talking about.
yes,
Great.
the brilliant Mark Justice,
Yes.
with his second movie from Cyclops movies, for the fake trailer, inappropriate stories for children. Right, exactly. Yeah. The whole look of it is awesome, and I kind of want to know what the kid's once it asks his mom, "Can I go down and get a stomach pounder and a Coke?" I'm like, well, I want a stomach pounder. That's got to be an awesome burger, whatever that is, um, yeah, and again, it's a very simple story, very engaging. Town celebrating its 100th anniversary, and you find out this dark secret about what's happened in the town. I love that kind of stuff, and ghostly pirates. What more can you want? I
Yeah.
love this movie, and it is one of my all-time favorites.
One of the things too that, and I should be flogged for it, but I took a chance, and years ago they came out with the remake of it. Oh my God.
Chop
It was,
Top.
I know.
Say it ain't so.
It is. And yeah, what a fucking turd that was. I remember taking it back to the video store and said, don't you ever rent this piece of shit to anybody again. Because it was a ghost love story. It took the whole Antonio, the kind of whole original story, and it made it a ghost love story kind of thing. I'm like, what?
Wow.
So yeah, don't know. Everybody watching and listening on it, don't you ever put a dime to that piece of shit. So okay.
Yeah, that's something we could do a whole show on remakes. As a rule, I generally don't like them. Although in our discussion today, we will find an exception to that rule, a rather great exception to that rule coming up.
Fantastic exception. I know you got.
Exactly. But yeah, when I saw that, I'm like, why fucking tamper with that? I mean, and then when I heard about the love story, I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Right. Really? This is the terror. Two ghosts who long to be reunited. Like, oh, fuck. Why? I don't know who the writer was. I don't know fucking cunt. You gotta stop that shit right now.
It was their last job. Yeah,
Good.
Hopefully.
Good.
Yeah. Thankfully.
Yeah. They should be out there working the rough trade for 50 cents a pop. All right. Your next film.
Oh, next film. I didn't do chronological. I'm just going through things popping up because I'm waiting for you to talk about the one, because
yes, we're getting there. We're getting close. I'm
going with 83 Christine.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I really like that movie. I like the everything they did with the car and with the effects at that time, and rebuilding itself, and it was just basically a reverse,
right,
filming. But the story, and of course based on the classic Stephen King novel. Yeah, I just really like Christine. I like the whole concept of a car is, it's kind of possessed, but it's demonic, where it possesses, takes over basically the owner, and he starts going crazy and mad, and you see it start that descending madness. You start seeing it as the film progresses. So yeah, I really enjoy that.
Yeah, we see an early venture into these themes that Stephen King really likes to go back to. We kind of discussed this last week on Unsane Radio for an upcoming episode. King really has this thing that he visits a lot of. Oftentimes there's a sense of being bullied. This is a trope that he uses really ad nauseum. And so I get a little tired of seeing those themes show up. Like, okay, there's at least five different stories or books or movies that I've seen by King. It's like has that as part of the undergoing theme. It's like,
that's a great point. Yeah.
Come on, dude. Look, you're a master writer and you have a wonderful craft, an amazing work ethic. You gotta find another thing other than fucking bullies, and that's what this at the heart of this is. It's a revenge story. I mean, revenge. I love revenge. I mean, it's the best thing in the world. So that I love that aspect of it, and that whole idea of being taken over and possessed. There's a whole lot to that. So yeah, the film has a good look, and I don't know if I don't think it got remade, but thankfully.
No.
But it's I remember seeing it back in the day and liking it. It's not something I go back to an awful lot because I have to go through a lot of stuff I don't like to watch to get through the stuff I do. And that's how I find myself more like with some Stephen King stuff. It's like the more I've seen, it's like, let's just get to it,
there is. You brought up the remake, thank God, but I've heard through the rumor mill that they might be looking at redoing Christine.
Oh, of course. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, we're redoing everything. Hollywood's like shooting blanks. They've been jerking off blanks for years. And what's being done over in that Europe over there? They might be making some good movies. They just don't have anything going anymore. And these are the guys making millions of dollars to produce movies. Yes, let's find someone else's work, or let's do a remake.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
Sure.
you go. Originality. My next movie in 1981. I mean, Carpenter's on a roll here. You know, I mean, bam, bam, bam. Escape from New York.
Mhm.
You know, Snake Plissken
Yeah.
sent on a dangerous mission to get the president out of the island of the prison island of New York. To me, this is a continuation of Assault on Precinct 13 in a way. You know, we're here. We have this dystopian world, and it's just kind of this kind of sense of really strict government and law, and New York's been made a prison island. You know,
Yes.
and and Snake Plissken, Kurt Russell, just, I mean, come on, it's a great role
Man,
here.
he
Snake
embodies it. Yeah, he
Yeah, and it's
definitely.
so fun. That's the thing. It's like
Yeah.
serious, but it's also, as we're going to see later on in the sequel to that film, he gets a little more tongue in cheek.
Yeah, it gets silly. Yeah.
Yeah, but very much like Assault on Precinct 13, it has that grindhouse quality to it, which is what I really love. This world that he's been setting up with these little kingpins and all these little kind of clashes and cars burning on the street and all kinds of stuff. You know, it has this certain look to it.
Yeah.
And then we also see Adrienne Barbeau come back in another role.
Mhm.
Because I think John Carpenter and Adrienne Barbeau were a thing. That's why she was
They
in
were
this.
married at one point, I
Right.
believe. Yeah.
Yeah, they were married. So, but yeah, Escape from New York is just really escapist fun. Not to make a pun on that, but Kurt Russell's great. I mean, he's just a great actor.
Yeah.
And Snake Plissken, I mean, come on, you got a guy named
Right,
Snake.
dude.
Come
I
on.
mean, and when you talk about, when he takes on a character, because he's, along with you, Montag, one of my favorite actors of all time,
Hmm.
he takes it on. I mean, he takes
Yeah.
that breeze, eats that role, like you even see in Hateful Eight when he's
Yeah. Right.
sheriff or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's just like, wow, any film he's in, Tombstone, another great one. I
Mhm.
mean,
And
he's
he's
one of the
a
greats.
child actor who stayed successful. I mean, he was working at Disney when he was a kid. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's been working since he was a child. And also,
Yeah.
we see another return of another actor who plays the president, Donald Pleasance, right?
Yes.
So here we have these actors, stable of actors who continue to kind of show up, in later films in different roles. I think they work together and they like how each other work, and so
I think
yes.
it's so cool how some directors, and this is a great example of that, Montag, how they have those that pool of actors that just love working with that director. They
Mhm.
love the material, and it's so nice to see those familiar faces that we saw in other films come back. for
Right.
more.
Kind of like Cyclops movies,
Yes, that's right.
you got these stable of actors who show up every movie, and behind the tutelage of the great Mark Justice,
Yeah.
right.
Everybody wants to be under his direction.
Damn
so.
straight they do, right?
Uh, Yeah.
We've talked about Halloween 2 already
Yeah.
when we did that, so we can skip 81's Halloween 2, and I think we're gonna go with the one that
The
we're
one.
looking for, the big one here, 1982, The Thing,
Yes.
which is a remake of the classic The Thing from Another World with James
Yeah.
Arness, which is one of my all-time favorite science fiction movies,
Thank you.
one of my favorite movies of all time. It's in the top 10
Yep.
of all time, and I know how much you love the film. We both love it. This one I saw in a theater multiple times. I was 15 or so. I was really wanting to be into special effects makeup, and this film is a feast for the eyes for practical effects. Just blew my mind. Some of the gore and the effects, from the crawling spider head to the jaws that open up in the chest. It's just like, fuck, like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this in my life. And I was just mesmerized. And to this day, those effects look amazing.
They stood. I was going to mention that. Yeah, it still stands the test of time.
Oh yeah.
No CG back then, nothing. And wow, just I trying to look up who did the effects in that. Well known.
I think Rob Bottin.
Rod Bottin. Yep. Rod
Yeah.
Bottin.
Yeah. Who I
Yeah.
think also did The Howling.
Right. Which is
Yeah,
one
and
of the
he's
greatest
another
visual
huge makeup
transformation
artist.
scenes ever. The Howling, one of the
Yeah.
greatest transformation scenes ever.
Yeah,
Um,
right. Yeah.
But just to have his, I mean, and that's a statement after all these years and decades later.
40
to
years
still
later,
look-
there's
still
got to
look
be a
fresh.
40-year. This has to be. They've got to bring a 40th anniversary
Yeah.
release this year or
Yeah.
something. You know, if it came back in the theater again, well, I wouldn't go to the theater, fucking COVID, but
Yeah.
I would totally want to get this movie. I have it on DVD.
Me too.
It's one that I would watch. It's on quite a lot on streaming too. It's on one of our channels. I forget what it is,
Right.
but again, it's another movie. If it's on, I'm going to watch it. And let's not miss out on talking about the score by Ennio Morricone, which the one that gets played a lot throughout the piece is called Humanity, or Humanity 2. Just a really Spartan kind of score that's kind of creepy and just minimalist, and boy, does it really add to the film.
Yeah. Not only that, you know what they did, you know, with the research center, you know, out there and stuff, and just desolation, isolation. And here you are trapped, not only because of weather conditions, where you're located, and you have this, and then the whole thing, you're doing the guessing game. You could be the thing. You could be the thing. It adds so much, and at the end,
Yeah.
I would love to see what happened between, you know, Kurt Russell's character and I think David Keith, I believe.
Yes,
And
I think that's what's, or Keith David.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it's Keith David.
Yeah, I feel bad not knowing.
Yeah. I would have liked to seen a continuation of that because, as you recall, some years back they did called The Thing, and it was a prequel to Carpenter's. And
yeah, which is actually way better than I thought it'd be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kept the story seamless, showed you some things. You know, when they went, Kurt Russell's character went to their research station or whatever, and they got the dude's blood is, you know, frozen coming down because he killed himself, and they show that in the prequel of those things, and they kind of tie everything nicely, including the ending where the dog shows up.
Because you're focusing on the Norwegians, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The Thing, I know, our dear friend from Sorcerer, Justin Biggs, wanted to be here for this. The Thing is his favorite John Carpenter film, and I know he would have had plenty to say for that. So here's to you, Justin. Thing still blows my mind. So 40 years later, not a lot of movies can still stay as potent as they do after 40 years. And The Thing, I think, will always be a movie that I want to watch.
Yep.
You know, right. All right. Here's my next one. What's yours?
I'm going to go with a pick here. I think is one of the underrated movies, but I know we both like as well. They Live.
They Live is great. Rowdy Piper.
Oh,
yeah.
He did a tremendous job acting in that as well, and it's got the longest fight scene in movie history.
Yeah. It is Keith David is in that one as well.
Yeah.
And Meg Foster, who has the prettiest eyes, I think. If anyone, my God, she has the prettiest eyes. Yes, that's a great fight scene. Here we have a science fiction to a degree. There's some comedy to it. There's a lot of it is a satire in a way, and there's a lot of commentary about commercialism and
sublimation.
Sublimation. Senseless consumerism. You know, and it's great. It's got a great line. You know, I came here to kick ass, or is it? Wait a minute. Chew bubblegum and
came here to kick gas and chew bubblegum. I'm all out of gum.
Fresh out of bubblegum or something like that. And Roddy Piper is the great actor to play that, because he's just you know, and this movie has that raw kind of exploitation feel again, because it doesn't feel polished. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but it's competent, tells a good story, and it in a way, once the aliens kind of are aware of this Piper's character, it almost turns into like Invasion of the Body Snatchers kind of feeling, very kind of closing in, kind of claustrophobic in that regard, you know.
And I think for the messages at the time, I mean, it hit the mark. Societal messages, and like you said, consumerism, sublimation, all these things, overspending.
Right.
You know,
well, the 80s was the decade of greed.
Right.
Greed is good. Yes.
And like the social caste system, you can see,
Mhm.
throughout the film in that. I mean, here you're shown, you have the homeless, and they're all living in this shanty village,
Yeah.
that eventually gets bulldozed over and stuff. Then you got the elite and the elitists, and these aliens, these people are all part of those different, levels of society, which is interesting. And what they do is want to have a takeover, basically. So
Mhm.
yeah, enjoyable, very fun movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah. All right. My next one is the Philadelphia Experiment, which I remember seeing in the theater, 1984, and it involves time travel, and it's a science fiction film. I don't remember much about it now, sadly. Other than I remember seeing it, I remember liking it when I was 17 or 16, and I thought it was a cool story. I think they went back to World War II. That's like today modern. They go back in time.
Sounds yeah.
If I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, I again, I've seen the movie. I just don't recall. It doesn't stand out in my mind like The Thing. Because I've only seen it, just the one time.
Yeah,
But
same here.
but I do remember watching it and liking it because he made two films that year, Philadelphia Experiment and Starman.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with Jeff Bridges.
Hmm.
And this is kind of this science fiction romance about an alien who comes to Earth and kind of learns what it is to be human because he has no form and then takes on this human corporeal form, and so it turns into the sense of discovery. So he had two big science fiction films in 1984. Did you see Starman as well?
I remember. I think I've only seen that once as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I do remember seeing that, and it was a very interesting story and a cool story at that. You know,
Yeah.
trying to learn, alien trying to learn to be human.
Yeah.
What it's like, and actually, you got the love stories kind of in the component with that.
Hmm.
As that actress that was in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Forget what her name is. She was opposite of Jeff Bridges.
Yeah. Karen Allen.
Karen Allen. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
like Karen Allen. Yeah.
Mhm. But yeah, that was it was
It's a
different for Carpenter. for
Yeah, it's
certain
kind of a
reasons.
gentle science fiction
Yeah.
romance, Yeah, but it kind of shows his range and appropriately so,
Mhm.
Yeah. I think another big one. I don't know if it was big at the time, but it's become kind of culturally big in a kind of a cult or underground way, or maybe not. Maybe it's beyond that. 1986, Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
Again with Kurt Russell
Yep.
coming back in yet another appearance. And boy, what a fun adventure, martial arts, fantasy, comedy. Kim Cattrall's in it, James
Yeah.
Hong, Dennis Dung. Um, and it is kind of all over the place. It is just one of those movies that brings all of these elements together in this world of kind of fantasy, and it's really over the top, but very much like Escape from New York, which is way over the top. It makes perfect sense. The world that has been built here, it works. It makes perfect sense,
Yeah.
and it's just a wildly entertaining movie.
Yeah. Very a lot of fun. A lot of fun in that one.
Hmm. Yeah. So I'm kind of glad they've not remade that, or they didn't
Oh
keep
yeah.
it
No.
going. I'm sure that'll be a down the road
Yeah.
somewhere.
Give it another year or two.
Hmm.
Hollywood will steal it. I'm going to go with another one that I'm going to talk about his movie, which I found enjoyable. James Woods in it, Vampires. John Carpenter's Vampires.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
I really the look of the head vampire was fantastic in there. I thought the whole thing about these vampire hunters and going and cleaning out these nests and everything has a sense of adventure to it. And I thought James Woods did a hilarious job as the
Hmm.
head actor in that. And yeah, and I mean, it was for what it is. It's just it's another fun, one of those fun, campy kind of
Hmm.
popcorn flicks that you can just pop in and say, yep, it's entertaining enough.
Yeah.
So
Nothing wrong with that. I mean, we love those kinds of movies.
mhm.
I've not seen this, but I'm intrigued. by it's
Yeah.
like because there was also Dracula 2000, came
Oh
out,
yeah.
which I saw just once,
Yeah.
and
I never need to see that again. Yeah.
yeah, it's like
It was all right, but it was just like
I actually liked was it Dracula Untold? I thought that was a
fantastic.
really great movie. It's so surprisingly good,
Yes.
yeah. Um, but okay, I'll have to check out Vampires.
Yeah. Let me know what you're thinking of.
Yeah. Well, another horror movie that we both like. It's a movie that I think got critically panned. It's kind of divisive even in the horror community, but there's a big fan base, but it's a slow burn. We're talking 1987's Prince of Darkness.
Oh, that was it was going to be one of my underrated films I was going to discuss. So go
Yeah,
ahead.
this is a supernatural horror film. Um, it's again we've got Victor Wong is back, Donald Pleasance is back. Um, and basically what we have here is this group of students, these physics students, who investigate this ancient cylinder of liquid, which come to find out is got some bad stuff in it.
Mhm.
I won't talk about what's in there, but this is a slow moving film, which has a great cameo by Alice Cooper.
Yes. Fantastic. I was going to mention that, and his scene, especially what he does to the one physicist. Um, but yeah, I mean, I liked it. I liked how it kind of right out of the gates, it starts with the credits and the movie's already going. They have a different kind of feel. And as a slow burn, but it just keeps, you can feel it, the dread. It just keeps compounding. It's building. And as things start to unfold in that church that they're doing the research in, you're just like, oh my God, what is coming up? So the effects were practical at the time, obviously. I thought they were well done. I do like, that green liquid and what that does. It possesses people basically.
Hmm.
And what trying to do,
That touch of
basically,
Satan.
yeah, it's trying to bring back Satan from the other side.
Yeah,
through
it's
the mirror.
Satan slunk. That's what it is, right? That slunk of
Yeah.
Satan.
Slunk of Satan.
Yeah. Just wring out that sock.
Yeah.
There's my Saturday sock. Right, exactly. And we grew up watching movies that would be considered slow burn, and we're cool with that. Like
Yeah.
the Hammer films are pretty slow burns.
Yeah.
We are used to that. A lot of the Universal films, slow burns, but so we're cool with letting a story take its time to develop and just enjoying the ride. That's
Yep.
what these films, some of these films are going to be. I mean, the Thing is like a roller coaster where like The Fog builds its momentum. This film too, and just builds up. And as long as you're cool with like enjoying the ride, I think you're gonna have a good time. I mean, it's enjoyable.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Great choice. Okay, I'm going to pick one. It was an anthology film, his Body Bags. I thought that was really entertaining. Carpenter himself is in it. I think he's a mortician or whatever, I believe in it.
Yeah, it's a
And he
corner.
and he starts bringing, and he does such a fantastic, creepy over the top role. It's a lot of comedy to it. But I thought the three stories are wonderful in it, and I thought it was a nice anthology film. I don't know. I think this was his. This might have been. Is this his only anthology film? I think he ever did.
Um,
I can't recall.
well, he
but
was in. He did. I mean, did Masters of Horror.
right.
That's another anthology.
Yeah, cigarette burns was the episode, I
Yeah.
believe.
But I think that's the only one he did. Yeah.
Hmm. But yeah, that was a great cast. Mark Hamill in the one story, Stacy Keach in the other one, and Carpenter himself doing it. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, Carpenter makes appearances in quite a few of his films, often uncredited and not drawing attention to himself. I don't know if I've seen Body Bags. Part of me wants to say I have, but I just can't remember, or if I've seen parts of it, maybe. I just don't
Okay.
remember one way or another.
There's
But
another one to put on your list.
Oh yeah. Just like I just found out, like the remake of Village of the Damned, which I've never seen. I've never seen that either. I just found out, I'm like, oh my God, he really, Kirstie Alley and Mark Hamill and Meredith Salinger, Christopher Reeve. Like, oh my God, how have I not known about this movie? Yeah, I definitely want to see that. Okay, my next one, 1996, Escape from LA.
Ah.
The sequel to Escape from New York. This is a much lighter film. It's still got that post-apocalyptic world, but there's a definite tongue planted firmly in cheek here, especially when Snake Plissken is surfing the tsunami. There's that scene. It's utterly ridiculous. I think there's even like Beach Boys music playing. Or is that in the James Bond one? I can't remember.
Can't remember. Yeah.
Yeah, there's this giant wave and he's on top of it, like, surfing. It's almost as convincing as the surfing in Monster Party Beach, I will say. But yeah, it's again, it's very silly. This one's not nearly as, I think the budget was higher, obviously.
Yeah.
But they just, I think you couldn't do, I think it's about the only thing you could do. I don't know if you could have done, again, we're talking like, when did Escape from New York came out? That was like what, 1981. So we're talking 15 years later.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you could have made the same movie, or should have made the same movie. So 15 years later, we're gonna take a lighter tone and approach to the film, and it's silly. Again, another popcorn movie. Don't expect coming in to anything world shattering here, but it's silly fun.
Mm-hmm. I saw that at the theaters myself, and I had fun with it for what it is. And you're right. Don't come in. It's nothing to be taken seriously, but it's a step down from Escape from New York, but they kept it fun, and I think at that time period, it's is what it is. But yeah, it's still popcorn flick, entertaining.
Oh, certainly, yeah, definitely.
Okay, my another pick I'm going to put in here is In the Mouth of Madness. Another one I would say is an underrated film. I saw this at the theaters with a buddy of mine years when it first came out, and I love the whole. I love the plot. I mean, here you actually, a horror writer is writing life. How it's this is what's happening, the undoing of man, bringing upon the apocalypse, the Lovecraftian creatures that come out of that door, and after Sam Neill and stuff, and it's just the Lovecraftian feel throughout the whole film is fantastic. You got Charlton Heston also in there, a couple scenes as a book editor, whatever, and sends Sam Neill and one of female from Charlton Heston's publishing group along with them, and they trying to find out what happened to this guy. Sam Neill's insurance investigator, and gets drawn into this whole world that is just a fantastic film. And Sam Neill is one of my favorite actors.
Yeah, he's really good. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And it's got that nightmare feel, that sense, like I said, In the Mouth of Madness. It's a really well done film, and again, a very, very entertaining horror movie. You could just pretty much, if it's on, you're gonna watch it. Yeah. It's really fun. Another fun movie, which again, this is maybe you're underrated, and it's not a great movie, but again, I think it's kind of fun. Ghosts of Mars. 2001. Yeah, it is, and it's got a good cast. I mean, you got Jason Statham, Pam Grier. Ms. Grier, if you'd like to come on the show, we'd love to have you on the show. Yeah, Pam Grier's awesome. I've had a crush on her for decades, man. Pam Grier.
You're right.
I think ever since I saw her like in Coffee or something, it's like,
oh
yeah.
I have very fond memories. This means a lot, this film, to me, because my daughter and I watched this quite a bit, and I think she, of course, like most females, probably watched it for Jason Statham. But it's one of her favorites. We just had a lot of fun with it. We could watch it anytime and stuff. So it brings back fond memories those times. Fun movie, very much.
Yeah, and it's entertaining. It's silly, and again, not one to be taken seriously. I mean, you got Ice Cube, and And
It's
you
got
have
that chick from Natasha Henstridge.
right,
from
yeah, who was
CCF.
an alien in another movie. She was in Species. She was the alien.
Right.
And that right. Yeah, and it's just kind of yeah, I agree. Underrated. It's entertaining. It's it's not going to be a Halloween, but you don't want it to be a Halloween. It's just what it
Right.
is. And it's you're exploring Mars, and there's these ghosts, and like yeah, okay, you're combining science fiction and supernatural, which I think is a really great combination that you
Agreed.
see in other films that we will talk about another show. But yeah, it's just a fun movie. You know, nothing wrong with that at all.
And I like the head ghost kind of zombie guy that's
Hmm.
leading all those other. I mean, he's vicious in that. Wonderful. Or that actor that portrayed him. That's just a wonderful, wonderful job in that role. So, and I like the look of them. You know, they're self-mutilating themselves. You know, once they
Right,
start
right.
getting possessed and all that, and it's just like wow. So, yeah, a lot of fun. Okay, moving on. Let's see here. Another list here. Things I haven't talked about yet. Go backwards here. Wow, gone through quite a bit actually.
Yeah,
Um, okay, well, you haven't seen Village of the Damned, right?
I've not seen the remake. No, no, I think I've blown my wad. As you could tell. No, and I'm spent. We gotta get Michael Caine in here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hoagie. Yeah.
Can you give us the look like you do in The Hand? That look of ecstasy. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, I'll tell you, the original black and white is fantastic,
Mhm.
and even the sequel, Children of the Damned. I believe that inspired Iron Maiden to write Children of the Damned, the song.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, the movie, right?
so yeah, but it's like you said, there's a great cast in it. It stays kind of true to source material. There's some different stuff, obviously updating for a modern time.
Hmm.
But this whole idea of, I think children, anytime they're evil in any kind of horror film or anything, or there's something wrong, that's a very creepy element to touch
Yeah,
on, because you
because
got
they're
these
not supposed to
small,
be. They're
small
not
people,
supposed to be
man.
evil,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, the innocence. You know, innocence
Right.
is gone. We've lifted the veil up, and here you got there's been on murder and destruction, and it's
Hmm.
just like, wow. Anytime you do that, there's that fantastic movie. I know you like Montag as well, The Children,
Yes,
which is, yeah, that was great
that was
too.
great. Zombie
Yeah,
kids. I mean, kids in a rage, killing their parents. You know,
yeah,
what
can't go
what
wrong.
more could you want? Right. I mean, that could be a whole show. I mean, we got The Brood. Um, we've got It's Alive.
Yeah,
I mean, come on. You know
got to
that.
put a Larry Cohen picture in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that devil baby, man. That's hysterical. Yeah, those movies, man, are just God
But
Almighty.
it just touches on something that is truly
Mhm.
like, what
Right.
if
Well,
something like that.
another example is the little zombie kids in Dawn of the Dead.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
right? Yeah, they're refueling the helicopter, and they see the kids like in the gas station or something, and then or they lunge at them, and
Yeah.
the kids all fly back in the couch. Um, right, because often kids are not the center of the attention.
Yes.
As the look of as far as horror goes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all for you, Damien. Um, right, right.
So now I guess we can come to wrapping this show up and
Mhm.
discussing what would be your favorite Carpenter film of all time. If you
Hmm. I'm gonna go. Boy, I have two, and I don't know
I know.
honestly. I think okay, I do know. I'm gonna go number two spot for me is The Thing.
Okay.
And number one is The Fog.
Wow, great.
Yeah, only because I think The Thing in a lot of ways is the superior movie. Like there's so much going on. And but there's something about The Fog that I find the child in me is released. Like I just want to kind of be tucked in with a
Yeah.
blanket and a pillow and like curl up, like watching this movie and just really let it unfold. And I
Yeah.
don't feel that way in The Thing, although I mean, I love the movie and I'm totally immersed in it. It's
Right.
all, and that's the only difference, is because the emotional connection I have with The Fog makes me feel like a child again, in a way, like the kind of horror and thrills that I would have really loved as a kid. I kind of still feel that way, and that's the only way I had to separate them in some way. But those are my top two. Anyway, I could
Great
probably
pick.
do number three would probably be Halloween.
Hmm, Great picks. I'm going to go with number two, also The Thing.
Mhm.
Enough said about that ad nauseum. That's
Yeah.
one of the best ever. And for me, because it means so much personally to me, and it's my favorite horror in all time, is Halloween.
Mhm.
Michael Myers. I just, that just as a young child and the imprint that left on me, and scared the hell out of me many years watching every Halloween. And yeah, it was just it's a classic. It really kicked off a whole, if you will. Well, it's arguably, it's not the first slasher. They call it a slasher film, but like you said, it really isn't.
Mhm.
But it kicked off a whole, your Friday the 13th. It kicked off your Nightmare on Elm Street kind of, and all those other kind of icons in the
Yeah.
horror genre. So
Yeah.
it was a jump starter for sure. It was a game
Right.
changer. So,
And it's no different than, I think, Psycho might be the first slasher film in that
yeah,
regard, because it's
yeah,
no different. Actually, Psycho, I think, has more blood probably
yeah.
in this.
Especially the shower scene. It's all going down.
Exactly.
It's-
That's the scene.
Yep.
Also with Janet Leigh, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I agree. I mean, I think once you're dealing with these all these films that we've mentioned, these top three, uh, you can't go wrong. You know,
No.
no matter what, these are the finest of a really great director who's directed all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
Tends to stick in the science fiction and the horror genres. I've not seen like Memoirs of an Invisible Man. That's
I
a
never saw that either.
comedy, a science
Yeah.
fiction comedy. I've not seen the sequel, The Vampires Los Muertos, um,
No, don't bother with that.
or the Ward, and I've not seen the most recent Halloween or Halloween Kills. So I'm not sure. Um,
Well, he actually was an executive producer along with Jamie Lee Curtis on the new Halloweens. Actually, the director is David Gordon Green, I believe, directed them. So,
okay,
but he was definitely has his hands involved in the new projects, and with Jamie Lee Curtis, which I think is really cool, bringing those two back together to,
hmm
even John's not behind the camera, but he's got his hands in there of his
right,
original visit, and keeps it,
yeah,
yeah, pretty cool.
yeah. So I'll have to go back and see those. That's the Halloween. That's not the. Okay, that's different than the ones made by Rob
Rob
Zombie.
Zombie, yes.
Okay,
Oh yeah, much, 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 much better.
talk
Uh,
about unnecessary remakes.
yeah, yeah,
That'll be our show. Unnecessary remakes.
sure.
Yeah, and now he's doing the Munsters. It's like, oh,
I'm nervous about that because you know how I love the monster. I mean, that's
yeah, you're a Munsters fan.
yeah,
I'm an Addams Family guy. I can
right.
appreciate the Munsters, but I saw pictures of the cast members and their makeup. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm not impressed so far. I mean,
No,
I do like
again, it's just a picture of them and sitting in their
right.
chairs. We have a lot
I
to.
just hope my biggest concern. I hope it isn't Rob Zombie-fied so much where it's just you're making a monster with total gore over the top, kind of torture porn
Yeah,
shit. Let's
I hope. I think it'll
keep
be.
it.
I think he's gonna keep his comic roots. We'll see. Um, yeah, I haven't been impressed with the last couple of things he's done. I'm kind of surprised that he got the Monsters franchise. Uh, I didn't like was it fucking
Lords of Salem,
Lords of Salem? Ooh,
31, 31. Ooh,
I didn't
ooh,
see that one.
don't.
I mean, we're getting movies that have an excuse to show, you know, his wife's butt. You know, Sherry Zombie. Is that her name?
Yeah,
Sherry?
yeah,
Yeah.
she's in every fucking movie he does. So yeah,
Right. I mean, cool if you want to put your wife in. I got no
great.
problem. It's like, hey, I like Rob Zombie's music, and I
Yeah.
love his sensibilities. I love the fact that he likes the '60s and hot rods and horror.
Oh yeah,
He's a
his
horror
art.
kid. He's just like us. I'm just
Yeah,
not crazy, and I liked House of a Thousand Corpses. I thought
me
that was
too.
great. Excuse me, great fun. Um, the sequel to that, the Devil's Rejects, it was horrible. Just torture porn, and I'm like, no. that doesn't do anything for me. It just, no, it's just not entertaining to me. But
Well, remember, I think it was our second episode. We talked about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and
right.
it's absolutely, it's definitely, you can tell a tribute to Texas Battleland when they go underground, and Dr. Satan's.
Oh,
there and all
sure.
that. So yeah, it just has that same sense of it, same feel, same atmosphere. And he obviously was inspired by that show.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. And I want to give him props where he's due. It's like, I'd love to have him on the show sometime.
Oh yeah.
It just those films didn't resonate with me, but it doesn't mean that they don't resonate with other people.
Right.
And that's the great thing. It's like, we've gone through this list of movies. Some I like better than you, some you like better than me. And that's cool. That's what makes us who we are, but we still appreciate it. We can still like it at some level. I went into his movies with an open mind. Like I said, I liked House of 1,000 Corpses. I haven't liked anything since. And I just thought his Halloween was unnecessary. I don't want all the backstory.
Yeah.
It is not necessary to see all this because, Michael Myers, what makes him so terrifying? I mean, he's the stuff of nightmares because he keeps on getting up after he's fucking dead. It's like worse than Jesus, just how many times you gonna crucify the guy?
I mean, you don't need a backstory because as Dr. Loomis says, he's simply and purely and simply evil.
That's all you need, right?
You don't need all that. It comes from an abused household.
No, it wasn't necessary. It grounds it too much in reality instead of, horror films tap into our nightmare, our unconscious nightmares and unconscious states. That's why they're irrational. And no other type of film genre do you have the irrational. Science fiction is always rational because even though there might be a monster, you have a rational way of dealing with it, like in The Thing. It's a rational way of dealing with it, or finding that we can't deal with it because of superior technology or something. But horror films are the stuff of nightmares. We have recurring nightmares. That's why the villain can always come back. Jason always gets up. Michael Myers always gets up. Freddy Krueger always comes back. It doesn't fucking matter because we can still have the same nightmare over and over again. And so that's the separation between science fiction and horror. And I think it's what got lost in the remake is we were trying to ground everything into too much reality.
Yeah.
And that just kind of ruined it for me. I didn't see the second one. It's like I didn't like the first one. Why am I going to see the second one?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. just wasn't like, no, I got no need for it. So I guess we'll see. See. I don't plan on seeing it. It's like, nah, I got no interest in it. I don't wish him. I mean,
I wish him success with it.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I got no harm, no ill will against the guy.
No.
I just not. He's making movies that I'm just not crazy about, and that's okay.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sure my movies don't appeal to somebody out there, but I applaud the artist who wants to make art, and just at the end of the day, you got to make art that makes you happy, and that's all that matters. Whether I like it or not, or whether an audience likes it or not, is irrelevant. And as long as the artist is happy first and foremost, that's great. So, I
love his music more than I do his films. So
yeah,
that's for sure.
Exactly.
But there's nothing wrong with that either. But he is such a creative soul. I mean, he's a heck of an artist too.
Sure.
He does usually all of his own art for, I believe, his sleeves. His albums and stuff.
And his house is awesome. He's got lots of toys and horror stuff and cars. It's like, that's cool, man. He's a cool dude, So yeah, good luck with the monsters, man. And if you come on our show, there you go.
Absolutely.
All right. Is there any more we need to say about birthday boy John Carpenter today?
I don't think so. Just Mr. Carpenter, I hope that we can get another film out of you eventually again. I know you're more focused on your music right now. You've been touring with that with your son and stuff, but if you ever want to come on the show and discuss ideas for another film,
that'd be awesome.
Heavy Metal Horror will be glad to have you.
That's right.
So, happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, man. Yeah, we can all star in his movie. That'd be terrifying.
Yeah.
Right. The cast of Heavy Metal Horror takes off their clothing.
Maybe we'll do Rampaging Sons of Bitches with us.
Yes.
Finally get our film project between you and Threadbull and stuff up and down.
Yeah.
It's a blast.
Well, now that Dreadbull's in the camera all the time, he's from the camera. He may not feel so shy now.
Right. That's right. Because I knew that was a problem for him.
Yeah, that's right.
Because
Dreadbull's not here, so we can talk about him.
That's right.
Dumb little fucker. Exactly. Right.
Oh,
I'm scared about being in front of a camera. I can't act.
I got to change my name halfway through a fucking series.
That's right. That's right. I
We
still
should've kept
say
him at-
he's
yeah.
the slut,
If
as
you're
Eric
listening,
Wagner
yeah,
calls
you're
him.
the Slutmeister.
That's right, Slutmeister.
Dread,
He's a fucking
Dread, if you
slut.
watch this episode, Slutmeister, we should have kept your fucking name at Breadbasket. So,
Bread, that's right. I forgot about breadbasket. That's right. Yeah, from now
Yeah.
on. Yeah,
we love you, Dread. Just
that's right. Well, speak for yourself. But yeah, and that's why this show is so much fun to do because of you guys. All right, hey, I guess I better do my commercial. So why don't you talk for a second while I pull up these commercials here? I forgot all about that.
Okay.
What you been watching?
I have not been watching too much of anything. I mean, honestly, I just rewatched Midnight Mass. So I just really like that. Man, that ending was so dark and just one of the more memorable endings I can recall, just films, period, or series. Just fantastic.
Yeah.
And I've been, in this past year, I've really gotten into Korean horror a lot more. There's something about it, man, that just the acting's superb, the stories are great.
Are you watching Hellbound?
Hellbound
On Netflix? Hellbound. It's a series.
Okay.
Oh, Hellbound.
Yeah.
You can check it out.
Okay. Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's about these demons who show up and tell people they're gonna die on a certain date and they're gonna go to hell. And they show up and they beat the shit out of the person and they drag them to hell. And yeah, I don't want to say anything more about that, but that's
Okay.
I mean, it's a very bleak show. Just say that. Yes. Yeah. So hey, you can find heavy metal horror on unsaneradio.com. You can listen to full episodes or download to your device. You can find us on Facebook at Heavy Metal Horror Podcast. On Instagram, look for Montag Lewis, one word. And our YouTube page, as you are on right now, Heavy Metal Horror Podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you know someone who'd like our show, tell them about us. This has been Montag, Master of Illusion.
In Chop-Top.
And you've been watching and listening to Heavy Metal Horror.
This is Doug Helvering, and you have been listening to Heavy Metal Horror, the best podcast that you've never heard before.